Welcome back to Bottom Deck Achievements, a Hearthstone achievement hunting series. The Throne of the Tides mini-set is upon us, surprising some players. It certainly surprised me. Last week I said it would probably be about 3 weeks until we hear something about it, and then, well, 3 days later, they announced the dang thing. So what we're going to do this week is we are going to dive into all of the new achievements that have been added with this mini set, kind of give an overview of what to expect, what we can get out of it, and what's required of us. And if you are a somewhat long-time viewer of this show, last set I did sort of a guessing game with all the achievements, and I'm bringing that back, but I've refined it a little bit and added a point system so we can quantify how bad my guesses and predictions are. So that'll be really fun. But first things first, well, as I'm recording this, it's not in the game yet, so let's kind of give a little progress update and see how we are at the midpoint of everything. Got a good little batch of achievements to click on this week. I did manage to finish all of the achievements for Demon Hunter, so I'm completely done with this class before the mini set. Managed to get this one in time to get my full refund for my last 2 copies of Multi-Strike. So I'm real happy about that, to get that full dust value out of that. A couple things I still haven't touched, but scrolling down here to, I think it's going to be mostly neutrals, but Fires of Zinashari. I know every time this card comes up, I mention that, I've been playing it in duels, but I actually got 12 wins with Bran. With a deck that I just kind of threw together, intending to do Fires of Zinashari stuff, and managed to carry me the full way there. It wasn't a 12-0, but it was a 12-2, so we take those. That was my first one with Bran, so I got a whole mess of achievements that I've already claimed for those that were, well, just worth achievement points. Meanwhile, looking here, I have step 2 of the Colossals achievement. Probably going to be getting some more in with these, depending on what the mini set holds for us. There's 2 new Colossals that are neutral, so those can go in any deck, and I'm sure we'll be talking about those later in the video. Not much to say right now, but hey, we're most of the way there for this one. This one should get cleaned up nicely. Additionally, Smothering Starfish, we are a little more than halfway there. Just still plugging away at this one. Still not much to say. Deck, card finds its way into decks here and there. Yeah. And then finally, as I think I said last week, I'd probably have this one done. Step 3 of the Summoning Naga achievement is complete. So we get a nice little level up there. We are close to level 100. That's cool. But yeah, super, super easy one. I'm kind of shocked it took me this long to get it done, but well, there it is. So that's it for this. Still have, quite a few grinds that have not started yet, namely this Commander Savara one and Kotori Lightblade, which is, gotta get going on those. And frankly, one of the ones that's been the hardest so far that I wouldn't have expected is this one, drawing cards that don't start in your deck with Gone Fishin'. You gotta do 60 in total. I've been playing a decent little bit of Pirate Rogue in Standard, whenever I do play Standard, and Gone Fishin's quite good, but it combos only with the Sunken Vessel from Asharan Vessel, and man, getting that to come together to play those 2 cards in exactly that order, it's been rough. As you can see, I only have 7 ticks for this one. Don't really want to play some of the other Sunken cards in that full Pirate deck, because I'm still working on this one with Pirate Admiral Hookdust. But yeah, this one was the sleeper difficult boy of the set, shockingly. So if we scroll back up anyway to check how we're doing, 54%. So if we want to say that this is the halfway point, and I think this one's coming out quite a bit earlier than some of the mini sets have been coming out in recent memory. But if we want to call this the exact midpoint, we're a little more than halfway there. So we're, still making good pace as far as all that. But this will be the last time that you see this screen with only 3 achievements per class, because let's do a little time jump to tomorrow. And just like that, it's Throne of the Tides Day. I'm gonna run through all these cards hopefully quickly. These tend to get a little out of hand and run a little long, but I'm gonna do my best to keep this kind of short. But first, the rules of the guessing game. So I've assigned point values to everything. And there's 2 ways to get points. Number 1, guessing the correct card for the achievement, just so you know you're on the right track. That's probably the most important thing. And then 1 extra point for absolutely nailing the stipulations for the achievement. So for example, in the last set, for the priest one, I said summoning Meta from your deck X number of times as a grind. I would have gotten 2 of the 3 points for that one, because while the achievement did deal with Meta, the actual stipulation for that one was summoning it multiple times in a single game. So I would have gotten 2 out of the 3 points there. So there's a total of 36 points up for grabs here, 1 for each class and then 2 of the neutrals. So I guess let's figure out how we did, starting with Demon Hunter. I guess just in general, the cards that they got they're okay. They mostly deal with fell stuff, which Demon Hunter likes to do. I like this one about attacking and drawing fell spells out of your deck. This is cheap enough and could theoretically come down early enough to really get you drawing a bunch of cards pretty early. I think it's quite good. I think the Herald of Chaos is slightly less interesting. There's a lot more rush stuff than this. Potentially some other stuff that can do, stuff more interesting than this. So I'm unsure that this one's really going to see too much play. I think Fossil Fanatic has a much higher chance of seeing play. Topple the Idol, I think, is the worst card of the set for Demon Hunter, but it's also my pick for the achievement. Dredge, reveal it, and deal damage equal to its cost to all minions. So you really want to go for one of those big demon lists, which historically haven't seen much play. And you really got to load your deck up with those to ensure that you'll have at least one of those in the bottom 3. But it was my pick because it seemed more likely than the others. And my stipulation for the achievement was deal X amount of damage over a length of time. Was I correct? Was I totally off base? Will I come toppling down myself? Let's check out the achievement and see. First things first, and I kind of hinted at this, each class gets 1 achievement, of which there's 2 steps for each one. The first step being worth 100 experience, the second step being worth 200, for a total of an additional, if I do the math really quick in my head, 3,600 experience. Bringing the total amount of experience to 20,200, which I still believe is less than most of the recent sets here. But what can you do? The mini set at least has the exact same amount of XP that we've seen consistently throughout. So for this first one for Demon Hunter, I did get the card right, but rather than it being a grind of damage over time, it's a single case one, dealing 50 and then 70 damage with a single cast of Topple the Idol. So your opponent has a full board, you dredge up something that costs 10. You hit all 7 minions with those and get it done in one swoop. You dredge up, the Naga Giant that costs 20. I don't know if it still costs 20 in your deck, or if you've not been playing too many spells, which if you're playing a big Demon Hunter list, you're probably going to be casting mostly spells in the early game. It might come down, but overall this one doesn't seem too difficult to get done. And hey, I'm always glad to have one that you get done in one game as opposed to a grind. So for here, I'm getting 2 of the 3 points because hey, I was at least on the right track. Next up is Druid, which got kind of a non-synergistic set of 3 here. First up is Moonbeam, which is a pretty good spell if you're going to be playing some kind of spell damage shenanigans. Would love to try this with Malygos in Wild if I can actually get that far into a game. But dealing 1 damage to an enemy twice, nice. 1 mana, deal 2. Pops Divine Shield and deals with other things as well. It's a good rate. It can go face. Love it. Additionally, though, I'm not too high on Spirit of the Tides. If you have any unspent mana at the end of your turn, gain +1/+2. So you're going to be playing inefficiently. In the past, the Saviors of Uldum quest for Druid kind of had the same stipulation, but it upgraded your hero power to something truly amazing if you built your deck around it after just 4 turns. This one, I don't really see the advantage of playing inefficiently for a small boost in stats. Yes, it can snowball over time, but you're also then going to be playing inefficiently over time, unfortunately. And then finally, what I think is the card that has the best chance of seeing play is a board buffing minion. If you've cast a nature spell while holding this Naga, give all your other minions +1/+2. So it's like a slightly souped up, what is it, Power of the Wild on a stick. So I think this card has the best chance of seeing play. Token Druid is not the best deck right now, but hey, a card like this certainly doesn't hurt. And for the achievement, I did pick Spirit of the Tides. Even you could name it something like Playing Inefficiently. I thought that the achievement would be with this guy, ending your turn with one that has X amount of attack, like 7, 8, 9, 10 attack. Seems like something that they've asked us to do in the past before. How close was I? Unfortunately, I was pretty far off on this one. The achievement is for Moonbeam, dealing 30 and then 60 damage with the card. Well, if you're playing a Malygos Druid, like I was talking about earlier, you'll get this one done pretty quickly. But other than that, without significant spell damage help, might take a while. Overall, though, playing the card 30 times in total, even without any upgrades, is pretty easy. Not too bad of a grind, actually. So, happy for this one. Shouldn't be too difficult to get this one done. Next up is Hunter, which got some interesting stuff. K9otron is really good value if you can manage to hit 1-cost minions, but filling your deck up with 1-cost minions hasn't always been the best thing. I'm having horror flashbacks now to the Ungoro quest, where you had to load your deck up with 1-cost minions, and that quest was kind of terrible. So I'm unsure if you want to really build your deck up with that many 1-drops just to summon a couple for free sometimes. But overall, hey, it's a 2-mana 2/3 with Dredge. Could be worse. Ancient Krakenbane, I think, has the best chance of seeing play. It fits in with some of the Naga stuff that Hunter is sometimes doing already in the face deck. And hey, a 3-mana 3/3 that just deals 5 damage. It can go face. Yeah, great card. It's terrible to pull this later in the game, but if you're consistently like playing spells and stuff, which a lot of Hunters are these days, I think this one has a pretty good shot of seeing some realistic play. And then finally, I think Shell Shot is it combos nicely with the Urchin Spines one, if you're still trying to kill minions with poisonous spells, which I think that was fixed in this patch. Not 100% sure. But this would be a 3-mana kills 3 things when comboed with Urchin Spines for a 4-mana combo. I think it's bad just with the random nature of it. Unless your opponent's running some super low to the ground stuff, you're never really going to do too much with this. I think this is a card that I don't think will see any play, and unfortunately it is what I picked for the achievement. My thought for this one is that just to kill 3 minions with a single cast of Shell Shot. And was I right? I don't know. Let's find out. I legitimately haven't looked at any of these, so when I'm saying I don't know, I'm actually telling the truth here. But for Hunter, we have summoning minions with K9otron, so I was a little off on this one as well. Summon 50 minions, so, well, like I said, you're going to have to load your deck up with 1-drops and just hope you get there. 50 seems a bit rough. It's a lot worse than the 30 or less than the Druid one with the Moonshot, whatever it was called. Not super looking forward to getting this one done. It could surprise me. It could be good. I wonder how well this doubles up with Bran as well. You really have to load your deck up with 1-drops though for this. Could be worse, but not looking like it's going to be the most fun grind. Next up is Mage, which has the second mini set in a row to give it a legendary minion. And this is a pretty interesting one. Lady Nazjar, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a Naga, so it will fit into some of the Naga stuff that Mage is kind of doing. It's not working super well, but some people are trying it and having fun with it. But this minion transforms and has a different battle cry effect after you play a fire, frost, or arcane spell, and it swaps each time you play one of those. I think one of them is dealing damage, one of them is gaining armor, and one of them is reducing the cost of a spell or spells in your hand. It's a super interesting card. I almost accidentally clicked disenchant there. And I think of these 3, I think this one has the most is the most likely to see actual play, because like I said, it's a Naga. It fits in with some of that stuff. So might be cool. Some of the bonuses you get are a pretty decent upside as well. Submerged Space Rock. Oh, wow. I am just realizing that that is a death rattle. Wow, this card is a lot worse. But yeah, adding random arcane spells to your hand that you might not even want, that just go away if you don't play them that turn, it mucks up your next turn, meaning you have to do the stuff that it gives you that turn, and you might have another game plan you want to do. I think this card is too awkward and too low value for this to see any actual play. And then finally, Polymorph Jellyfish is a polymorph effect that costs 1 less than Polymorph, that you can still kill with a ping for your hero power. So that combo happens with just 5 mana as opposed to 6. But on the upside, if you play this on one of your own minions, it gets spell damage +2, which I also think is a little too awkward to actually make a difference. So unfortunately, I don't think Polymorph Jellyfish is really going to see any play. As far as the achievement goes, I picked Lady Nezjar. I kind of metagamed this one in my own head. In the past, I feel like 2 of the 4 legendary minions from each mini set have had achievements associated with them. And as I look through the legendary minions here, the Warlock one that we'll talk about in a little bit doesn't really seem suited for achievements, and I don't think that they would stick both of them on the neutral ones. I could be wrong, but I also just don't think so. So I picked Lady Nezjar as sort of process of elimination, and the stipulation that I guessed would be to do X amount of the things between cost reduction, armor gain, and damage dealt. And well, let's see. Well, I was close. I get the 2 points for getting the correct card, but it looks like it's just simply play Lady Nezjar in the 3 different forms. So the Fire, Frost, and Arcane forms, which seems like it's going to be a super easy achievement to get done. 3 games, hopefully you can get this done in. Even more if you can manage to either add copies back to your hand with Zola the Gorgon, or discover additional copies with Amalgam of the Deep, Amalgam of the Tides, whatever the amalgam is that you discover a thing with. Super good card. Mage does have a lot of Naga though, so your odds of getting Lady Nezjar are probably going to be lower than in other classes fishing for specific ones, fishing no pun intended, but the possibility is there. Overall though, a super easy achievement, and well, glad to put some more points on the board. Next up is Paladin, which got some kind of weird stuff. First up is Myrmidon, which is likely to see play because it is card draw for Paladin, which is a class that historically has struggled with card draw, and I don't super think they have a lot going on now. But this is a Naga that when you play a spell on it, you draw a card. Hey, Paladins like to beef up their guys. Unfortunately, with the hand buff kind of stuff that's going on right now, I don't really think that this is going to see too much play. But I think it's a decent enough card, and should they print more spells, I think this one is I don't want to say future-proofing, but like watch for this one in the future to get better. Just as the card pool grows larger and there's more like spells to play on your own minions, Myrmidon is just going to get better and better over time. I'm going to shift over to Light Ray. If there's one thing Hearthstone has taught me is to never count out a possibly free 5/5. All you have to do is play 9 Paladin spells, and this one costs absolutely 0. So I think this one will see some play. I mean, it's not one you're going to be able to cheat out super early, but at the same time, like, hey, it's eventually going to be a free 5/5, and I think that's, you know, super good. Okay, so while I was editing, I reread Front Lines, and I want to completely scrap everything I said about it because I misread the card at first. It summons a minion from both players' decks until either side of the battlefield is full, which I think makes this card a lot worse. How I initially read it is that it does it until both sides of the battlefield are full, which means if you have 0 minions and your opponent has 7, you just pull 7 minions from your deck for free. But now, if it works like that, I'm seeing on Twitter that people are saying if they play it when their opponent's board is full, it's literally a 9 mana does absolutely nothing spell, which sucks. I think that makes this card a lot worse, because you're either going to give your opponent more value, or you're going to get very slightly more value than your opponent for this to be worth 9 mana. I think this card is absolute garbage. And, well, I guess I'll re-record this bit too. This is what I picked for the achievement. And spoilers, it's the actual card. The achievement, I think, is... I'm not going to go to the page because I've already seen it, but the achievement for this card is to summon 50 and 100 minions on either side. So if you're just trying to jam this achievement and get it done, you are playing it on an completely empty board on both sides and summoning 14 minions every time. But let's be real, that's never going to happen, realistically. With this stipulation, now I would probably estimate that you would probably summon 8 on average with this card. Wow, this card is a lot worse than I read, and I am not looking forward to playing this. I got it kind of wrong because of how I assumed the card worked. I thought it was going to be like play a front lines where you summon 7 for yourself and your opponent summons 0. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be more of a grind card as opposed to a one-shot kind of thing. So I give myself the 2 points there, and we are going to move on because I'm a little upset at how bad this card is. Priest has the set of cards I think I'm most excited for because all of them deal with the things I like to do. I've talked about, like, I love playing like grindy control decks and, you know, kind of gross, nasty, kind of mess with your opponent kind of things. And a couple of these cards do just that. I'm gonna start with Herald of Light though. If you cast a holy spell while holding this, restore 6 health to all friendly characters. So in those slower kind of decks that have more of a top end to them, this is a good, somewhat cheap way to heal all your stuff. Compare this to the 6 mana 6/6 taunt that does the same thing on Death Rattle, and that card, you know, is an auto included in any slow priest deck. I think this one is you know, much better than that. I think you include this one over that elemental. Good effect, well statted, cheaply statted to where you can do other stuff on that same turn. I like it. I love this card. I love everything about this. I love how much it can screw your opponent over. You dredge for your opponent and set its cost to 6, so you can put like a 1 mana thing at the front of their deck, or just something that just doesn't fit with what you're trying to do, or what they're trying to do against you. I just love it. It's so good. I don't know if it's actually going to be like good as far as like quality, but like, man, I'm looking forward to having fun with this one. And then finally Drown, which is power creep on an older card. Entomb was, I think, 6 mana for the same effect, except it put it in a random spot in your deck, so you could kind of yoink something in your opponents during the game and just hope you eventually draw it. Here it puts it at the bottom, so you know you can dredge for it eventually. And Priest has a 0 cost dredge, though it synergizes with spells instead of minions, but still. Man, Drown is just great removal for Priest, and that's, I think, one of the biggest things that they lost was kind of lower to the ground removal. I might be talking trash. I might not know exactly what Priest has. What did I put for their achievement? I think I put play the drowned minion X number of times as a grind. So we'll see about this one. Why do I keep accidentally mousing over the disenchant button? Well, while playing drowned minions isn't going to get me any progress on achievements, at least I can do the other thing I was excited to do and make cards a lot more expensive for my opponent and be rewarded by doing so. Increasing by 40. So if you hit 1 cost cards every time you play this card, you will get this done in 8 casts of this card, which is pretty quick, but that's probably the most ideal scenario, which is never going to happen. But overall, 40 is not too big of an ask for this one, especially it's one that I'm very much looking forward to trying out, especially comboed with a couple of the other Priest achievements I still have to do, namely the Blackwater Behemoth one. A card like this kind of seems like it fits in well with kind of a higher top-end control-y value kind of deck. So, hey, I'm super looking forward to trying this one out, even though I completely got it wrong. Next up in Rogueland, I think they got the worst card of the mini set. At least I thought so until I reread that Paladin spell. But Jackpot, add 2 random spells from other classes that cost 5 or more to your hand. I think this is absolute garbage. Typically spells like this that add 2 of something to your hand don't really see play. I think of Information for Warrior, which added 2 taunt minions to your hand. There's been all sorts of stuff like this in the past. And unfortunately, random spells that cost 5 or more, I don't think that's worth it. I think that's mostly a bad thing to get from here. Now, there is that rogue card that makes your next spell cost 0, but I don't think that this card is good enough to run to make that card playable. I think Jackpot is absolute garbage. Moving on, Inkvale Ambusher is a nice early game kind of attacking minion. It can snowball out of control against other minions, decks that are playing like tempo, because you just swing in, attack, and take them out for very cheap. Boy, this is a really, really interesting lines of text when combined here. So it's 4 mana attacking and immune, which seems like it'll be good. They have preemptively banned this card in Arena because that's more of a tempo kind of environment there, and this card is just going to run rampant if it was allowed. So good on them for noticing something like that on the front end. And then finally, I think the most interesting card that Rogue is getting here is Shatter Shambler, which makes your next Death Rattle minion cost 1 less, but it immediately dies when you summon it. Oftentimes, one of the biggest knocks against Death Rattle stuff is the fact that they're clunky. You can't really do them on your own terms. Your opponent can pop them for you, and oftentimes Rogue likes to try to set stuff up with like Snowfall Graveyard that doubles up your Death Rattles or what have you. But here, it just pretty much acts like a spell being played almost, because you play the minion, it dies, Death Rattle happens. So I think this will be decent for setting up Death Rattle stuff with like Snowfall Graveyard. Remains to see if that's actually good, but I think it's at least the most interesting thing. And that's also what I picked for the achievement. I figured it would be, with this card, summon X Death Rattle minions that immediately die upon summoning. And well, let's see. This is a weird achievement. It's with Jackpot, and it's adding cards of the same cost to your hand. I'm sure there's some math involved with this, but the fact that level 2 only needs you to do this 3 times means this one's gonna be done pretty quickly, and thankfully so, because like I said, I think Jackpot is a terrible card. So I'm really hoping I can get this done in just 3 casts of this card, but you know, it's unlikely. There's a lot of 5s, decent number of 6s. I feel like a lot of 7s. So I feel like at least those are gonna, it's all gonna be split across the thing. Maybe I'll get lucky, but hey, at least this one seems a lot more doable than the completely random RNG fest of the Party Up achievement for Paladin a couple sets ago. This one seems at least attainable. So hooray for that, at least. They've learned with their completely random ones. Next up, Shaman gets a bit of a Murloc package with Clownfish and Tide Lost Burrower. One of them makes your minions cost less. One of them, you dredge. If you hit a Murloc, it summons a 2/2 copy of it. Really, really scared for Murloc Shaman in Wild now, because these seem utterly disgusting. This just for the sheer value of it, that you can like cast 2 Murlocs on turn 3. Get some great value, and then summoning 2/2 copies of Murlocs is also super good. I think both cards are super, super good. Don't know how much it's going to work out in Standard, but especially in Wild, I am scared of our potentially new Murloc Overlords. And finally, Command of Neptulon is just summoning some big beefy boys with Rush. This is similar stats to that old card Faceless Corruptor, but it overloads, but you also don't have to set it up. I think this card is super, super solid. Yeah, it's just a lot of good value. 10 attack on turn 5 with Rush. That's just really, really good. And this is also the card that I picked for the achievement, though the fact that there's 2 Murlocs in here makes me think I'm probably wrong. This was the one I spent the least amount of time thinking about. I just figured it would be summon X number of elementals with this. And I'm probably wrong, so let's find out. Oh, look at that. I was wrong. It's summoning the 2/2 copies of Murlocs. So Hopefully that deck pans out in Wild, because I'm super interested in trying it out, actually. But you are just summoning 20 and then 40 2/2 copies of Murlocs. So, like I said, with some of the other dredge-centric achievements, you really gotta build your deck with a lot of Murlocs. And unfortunately, in Standard, I'm unsure how many there actually are. I have to peek back through some of the older sets. I know there's like one that deals damage on summoning. There's one that gives Murlocs rush and then +1 attack on summoning. So hey, we'll see. Overall, this one shouldn't be too bad, but you just gotta really dedicate yourself to those gurgly boys. Next up is Warlock, which got, well, a seemingly really bad legendary minion. Reminds me of Millhouse Mana Storm. I've seen people talking about how this is one of the worst legendaries ever printed, but it's a 5 mana 7/7, so it does have premium stats, but it has the battle cry of your opponent's cards cost health instead of mana next turn. So your opponent can just like drain everything. It becomes that one Tavern Brawl where your spells cost health, and everybody just wins on turn 1. I think this card is bad. I don't really see much use for it, and the very slim use cases that it has are, well, too slim for it to really pay off. Herald of Shadows, I think, is also kind of clunky as far as some of these. If you've cast a blank spell type, do a thing. Stealing 2 health from a minion is just too low impact to make this work. Love the art though, it looks really cool. Unfortunately, I think it's just going to be too low impact to ever really see play with any of the stuff that Warlocks are wanting to do. And then finally, there's Immolate. Light every card in the opponent's hand on fire in 3 turns. Any that are still there get destroyed. So punishes greedy strategies potentially. Can break up combos before that it's set to pop off. But for 4 mana in 3 turns, I mean, honestly, this is just a dead card sometimes. If your opponent is playing any kind of aggro thing, they're just dumping their hand anyway. They don't care about this. I think the fact that it's potentially just dead more than half the time, or about half the time at the best of times, means that this card is hopefully going to be terrible, because, like, hey, I don't want to fall victim to this. And also, this is what I picked for the achievement. Like I said, I don't think that this legendary is good for it, and I don't really think that this Naga is good for it either. So it's just kind of left with Immolate, and I picked that they were going to make us burn away like a certain number of cards in our opponent's deck off of a single cast of this card. So let's see how wrong I probably was. I should probably give myself a little bit more credit. I love the name. We did start the fire. But yeah, it is Immolate, and you are incinerating 15 and then 30 cards. So no need to get a bunch done in one cast of this, though it certainly will help. But you just gotta burn 30 cards away over time. I'm really curious to see how long this is actually gonna take to finish. It's at least the one so far that I have the least frame of reference for as to how good or bad of a grind this will be. But the fact that it's 30 and not like 100 leads me to believe that it's probably going to be a fine grind. And finally, the last class before the neutrals, Warrior. I'm going to start here. This card is kind of boring, but just generally decent value. 8 mana 5/8 that just deals 5 damage to any target, and you gain 8 armor. Cool. Next up is the Igneous Lava Gorger, which unfortunately has anti-synergy with another warrior card that dredges, the From the Depths spell. And while that one makes your cards cheaper so you can dredge them up and play them easier, this one wants you to dredge more expensive stuff to gain the armor. So unfortunately, the two do not play nice together, and if I gotta pick one or the other, I'm picking From the Depths. That's just how it goes. And finally, Clash of the Colossals. Add a random colossal minion to both players' hands. Yours costs 2 less. So interesting, but cards that give your opponent value and then potentially the onus to play them first never play out well. So even though yours does cost 2 less, I think this card is just bad. I did pick Igneous Lava Gorger for the achievement, though. I figured it would be gain X amount of armor over time just from dredging with it. And unfortunately, another whiff. This one is playing Colossal minions from other classes as warrior. Interesting to note that this can be done with Phelan, as he puts random Colossal minions on the bottom of your deck. So you can get this done without having to play a really bad card. Why give your opponent value when you can just do this and get more ticks of this achievement done, probably, with, you know, another card, which granted isn't a great card, but it's another option. And finally, the neutrals. We're going to rip through these real quick. Bubbler is just great stats for a 1-drop, but it dies after it takes 1 damage. I wonder if it takes 2 damage if it lives. It's weird wording on there, and I love the pop at the end of it. But hey, it's essentially, you know, if it just dies to any damage, it's basically a 1-mana 2/1. You could silence it. You could, you know, give it Divine Shield or whatever. I guess it wouldn't take damage anyway from Divine Shield. You could silence it, but there's better stuff for you to silence as Priest. And plus, why are you playing Silence Priest? Snapdragon, currently bugged. It gives all Battlecry cards, not just minions, +1/+1. So it'll give your hero cards in your deck +1 attack at this point. And so you will have a permanent like +1 attack. But as is, with just minions, it's a little awkward. Effects like this are typically good, but you really have to load up on the battle cries. So I'm unsure how this is going to be when they fix it. But probably just okay. Probably nothing too spectacular. Next up, another card that I love, another disruption card, Coilfang Constrictor. You look at 3 cards in your opponent's hand and you pick one that they cannot play next turn. So love these kinds of effects, these kind of low Theb, dirty rat kind of style. I'm doing something nasty to you kind of thing. This is going in that priest deck that wants to do all the disgusting things. It's fun, and I do think it's actually a powerful effect. The stats on the minion are pretty good, and I just think overall this is a really solid card. This will see a home somewhere. And then finally we get the big boys. Azumat, I think, is the worst of the neutral Colossals here. Both of the neutral ones are Colossals, by the way. This one completely fills your board with tentacles, and gives the main body itself Death Rattle, kill a minion for each tentacle that's still alive. So people are talking about how many stats this puts on the board and how big of a stat bomb it is, but unfortunately I think the 1/3 tentacles stand a good chance of just dying. Unfortunately, I don't think this card is very good. It just seems too awkward to make it work. It's a Death Rattle. It doesn't do anything super on the board that turn. These don't have rush. Nothing has rush on it. You can technically pair it with that rogue 1-mana thing that makes your Death Rattles immediately die when they come on the board. Then you just clear their board and get a bunch of 1/3s, which is okay, but I don't know if I necessarily want to be doing that. I think Azumat is a little too awkward to use as intended, and I don't think it's as impressive as a stat bomb as some people are making it out to be. Then finally, I think Neptulon is a very good value card, but unfortunately a little too expensive. I wouldn't want this to be any cheaper. And a lot of people are comparing this to Raid Boss Onyxia. And while I do see the comparison, and people are saying, oh, Raid Boss Onyxia was really good and saw a bunch of play. Well, it's kind of fallen off, like especially since Kazakhstan got nerfed. I've not really been seeing any Raid Boss Onyxias. And so I think this is going to suffer kind of the same fate, but just kind of be too expensive from the get-go. I do love the effect, though, that like as this attacks, like its hands attack instead. And if this lives, if you get to your next turn with this being able to attack face or other minions or stuff, it's kind of insane, because I think this can attack, and I think the hands themselves can actually would be able to technically attack a 3rd time on that turn. So it's a really cool card. I really like the idea of it, but unfortunately I think it's just gonna be too slow. Like I don't know if people are going to be wanting to spend 10 mana to do this, unfortunately. Raid Boss Onyxia was great because you could kind of pick and choose your stuff because of all the whelps, and plus you got the free 8/8 on top of it that was immune, and you more than likely had the 8/8 left over for at least another turn as your opponent scrambled to try to remove the 2/1s. So I don't know. We'll see. It's really neat, and I hope it's good because I love cards like this and love when they see play, but I'm just not 100% sure. And anyway, I picked 2 achievements here for the neutrals. I picked, I'll start with Azumat. I figured it would be a kill, I guess it would be 6 because it's 6 tentacles. Kill 6 enemies. I did put a number here. I figured you'd have to kill like as many as you can in one death rattle trigger of Azumat. So paired up with the rogue minion that I mentioned earlier, I think it could get done if that's the thing. And then I also think I picked Coilfang Constrictor, and if I didn't write that down, it's what I'm picking now, and it's just lock out X number of cards from your opponent with this battle cry. So let's see if I was right at all. Well, this one's kind of cheating because it was hidden within the classes, but that cycle of Herald Nagas, like the Warlock one that steals health from minions, the Druid one that buffs other minions, they're all rolled in here. So just playing any of that cycle, getting the battle cries to pop off 25 and then 50 times is gonna get you there. I think I picked one of the heralds in one of the things. So I'm gonna give myself 1 pity point for this one because I did pick, no, I didn't. Hold up, did I? I know I did. Did I not pick a single? I did not pick a single herald. Of all the classes, I didn't pick a single herald minion. I cannot give myself 1 pity point because I didn't pick any of these. Oops. Fortunately though, I think that this one looks like I get the 3 points here. Because yeah, it's just destroying a bunch of minions with a single death rattle. So that's cool. I got that one completely right. I can't believe of all the classes that these cards existed for, I whiffed completely. No pity points here. But yeah, so that's 3 points for that one. Let me add up the complete total. This is going to be embarrassing, I think. So the grand total, after adding up all possible points, no pity points given anywhere, for the guessing the achievements, my final total came to 11 out of 36, so just under 1/3 of all possible points. Of all the classes and neutrals, I only got 5 cards correctly, and I only managed to guess one of them completely correctly. So I think that's worse than I did last time, but it just goes to show that the options are pretty much endless as far as achievements go. Like almost all of these cards could have had achievements tied to them, but it's just, this is what the team picked. So I think I'm going to keep doing this for every set. I'm going to try to involve a couple more people for the next one. Going to try to reach out here and there and try to get some collabs going. See how other people do compared to me, the achievement boy. I'll probably reach out to a couple other achievement boys if there are any. But yeah, so that is going to do it. Overall, none of these achievements seem too difficult, except a couple of the longer grind ones. Just looking through one more time. Not looking forward to this front lines one because, like I said, I think that's just a really bad card. And then the K9atron seems like it's going to be a bit of a grind as well. But other than those two, nothing looks too far out of line. So thankfully, that's going to free me up to continue on with some of the grinds from the main set achievements that I have been neglecting. So overall, I'm still feeling good. I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to finish all these achievements again. So that'll be the 3rd set in a row that I've maxed out on experience points from achievements. We'll see if they add another Secrets of the Naga achievement for me to completely neglect and be like, well, I did all the ones that gave reward track points. I'll do this one later. And here it is later, and I still haven't done this one for Alterac Valley. Maybe someday. Maybe someday when I have like 3 hours to get this one done. But hey, that is going to do it for me this week. What cards are you most excited for in this mini set? Let me know in a comment below and achievements you'd like to see me cover in a future video. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video and stuck with me to the end, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Both of those things would help me out a ton. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at HeyTallman at both places. Looking forward to streaming a little bit more. Some of my busy weekends are over now, so should free me up to do some stuff there. Looking forward to the new Monster Hunter DLC coming out. Should be streaming a bunch of that when that comes out, so follow me there for some monster hunting goodness. Other than that, I think that's all I have. So as always, thank you for watching. Have a great day. May the card you need the most never be at the bottom of your deck.